Hello, this is Ethan. This is my second episode of the Ethan Anonymous show. Last week we touched on sobriety and how sobriety is not one size fits all, that there's different methods for different people, and that it is not always a spiritual malady. Just so you all know, this show is not going to be 100% about sobriety. I do want to tackle other subjects, other social issues, and like I said in the last episode, talk about solutions to problems instead of the problems themselves. But I touched on the spiritual malady thing last week, and it resonated with a good friend of mine named Derek Carson. I've known Derek for a long time now, almost 20 years, and he's got more clean time than I do. He's killing it. He's doing really well for himself. Uh, Anyway, I guess whatever I said spoke to him and he shared it with other people. But today, what I wanted to talk about is what's called the pink cloud and the post acute withdrawal, which happens early in sobriety. Now, the pink cloud is what happens when you first get sober. You get out of detox, you get into a treatment center, and your brain produces more chemicals to adjust and make you feel good because you are now not putting chemicals in the body to alter your dopamine and epinephrine and serotonin and all that. So the brain overcompensates. So you feel really good. And this happens probably, for me, it was about 2 weeks into my sobriety every time. And it lasts 30 to 60 days, but, a little longer. But for me, around day 80, the post-acute withdrawal would set in. And the post-acute withdrawal syndrome is something that can last for a year, up to a year and a half, especially with alcoholics, heroin addicts, and benzodiazepine addicts. They don't know enough about post-acute withdrawal as far as methamphetamines and things like that, but they are now suggesting that there is a post-acute withdrawal that lasts a long time with methamphetamines as well. So what ends up happening is after your brain normalizes from the pink cloud and you're thinking with a quote unquote normal, stable brain with normal brain chemistry, you start to get really, really damn depressed. And you start to get anxious and you start to think, well, what's the fucking point? And this is what would always happen to me close to my 90 days is that I would get super depressed, so depressed to the point of suicidal thoughts. And my immediate reaction was, well, if this is what sobriety's like, fuck sobriety. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to feel this way. And I would go back to using. Or I would enter the workforce and start with some crappy, low paying job. And at the end of the week, be broke and not be able to take care of myself the way I did before I became the alcoholic that I became. And again, I would say, well, F this, I don't want to do this, I may as well use, what's the point? So what I've found with the post-acute withdrawal this time around is that it's something you just have to fight through. And there is scientific evidence showing that physical activity, exercise, really will help combat it. And that doing creative things, artistic things, will also help with the post-acute withdrawal. And that the longer you stay sober, the less intense that it gets and the less often it happens. I went from having post-acute withdrawal symptoms that would last all week down to a couple days a week, down to 1 day a week, down to once every 2 weeks. Now I don't think I have it. Well, no, I don't have any of the symptoms. I'm over 2 years sober. But it took about a year and 3 months for me to completely get over it. One thing that helped me with the post-acute withdrawal was I did have to get on an antidepressant. I got on the lowest dose that I could get. It was called Lexapro. That's something you have to discuss with your doctor, psychiatrist. I cannot tell you what to take. I also took a multivitamin. I took B vitamins. I got exercise where I could. And Monday through Friday, I worked 11 hours a day, 5 days a week, with a job. I didn't really care much for the job, but that was 55 hours a week of my time completely occupied, and I was too tired to think about using or drinking, and that overtime added up, and I could actually take care of myself and fix my credit, and that made me feel good, and that was a huge motivator for me to stay sober. um, After I got over the post-acute withdrawal, I started to focus on other things, other interests, other hobbies. I'm going to get back into rock climbing. I've gotten back into Thai boxing. I've actually been helping people train Thai boxing. You got to get back into your old hobbies, and you're going to find that old parts of your personality are going to come back. Two things I had forgotten about myself is that I loved 80s and 90s cult classic horror movies. So I started collecting horror memorabilia. You can see a lot of it behind me on my wall and up on the shelf over here. And I've got another shelf over there with even more stuff. And I had forgotten how much I loved classic cars. So I have started a classic car collection. I have two in my collection right now. The next one I want to get is a Lincoln Continental Mark 8. But anyway, as far as post-acute withdrawal, it's hard. You got to fight through it. You got to stay busy. It sounds cheesy, but eat healthy and take your vitamins. Breathing exercises, cognitive behavioral therapy, that has worked a lot for me. Smart recovery, REBT, CBT, all of those things. I think that's about it for this episode. I hope that you guys gained something from this, and I will see you all next week.